power greater than myself. That really, that it's not going to always be this way. I really did believe that, you know, when you're being abused, and this is what I tried to explain to people for 25 years of the Oprah show, and don't think I ever really got the point across. And you would ask me, what is the one message, and I think I said this on the final show, the one, or you might have taken that. The one thing I most regretted is I wasn't able to move the needle far enough on abuse in this country, because most people think that the abuse is about the actual sexual act. And I know that the statistics are 1 out of 6 for boys and 1 out of 4 for girls. So I know that we have a room full of people in here who know what I'm talking about. And the mistake that most people make who have not been abused is they think that it's about the act. That's why everybody always says, well, was there penetration? Was there penetration or not? If there wasn't, they feel like, oh well, it was okay. When you are 4 and 5 and 8 and 9 and 10, and maybe 11 or 12 now, it doesn't matter. It's about the lack of trust, the misuse of trust, and the shame that occurs because that has happened to you. It's the secret that is kept and the shame. And it doesn't matter what form it took. It just means, oh, I now got to keep the secret, and if I tell anybody, I'm going to be the bad guy.
When you were 9, is this a situation where the person then takes you out for ice cream and says, let's just keep this between us?
Yeah.
And as a result of the circumstances, the quote here is that you sought validation from men who meant me no good.
Yeah. Where'd you get that? That's good. That's good homework research. Yeah, so I didn't know this forever too. And I know there's somebody in here who can relate to this. So I was sexually molested, raped at 9, didn't even know what a penis was, hadn't seen one or didn't know anything about it. And raped at 9, taken to get ice cream with blood running down my leg, said don't tell. I didn't. And the reason I didn't tell, and the reason most kids don't tell, is because you know whether it's going to be safe to tell or not.
What was your relationship at that point like with your mother? The woman who wouldn't let you, who acquiesced when her friend said you can't come in?
Well, I knew. The person who, the message to you is you know everything before you're 6. You come into the world knowing everything. That's how kids socially, they learn everything between 0 to 3. Language and everything. You come in knowing everything. So, just like I walked into that room, and this has happened to all of you, you walk in a room, you know people have been talking about you. Mm-hmm. You know that. I walk in that room, I know that I'm not wanted here. I know that my mother, instinctively I know, she should say, let her sleep with me. She doesn't, so I know I can't trust her. Mm-hmm. So the message to myself in that moment when I walked into Milwaukee, into Miss Miller's house, was you were going to have to take care of yourself. It's going to be you and Jesus. So I knew that I could not share that with anybody because I knew somehow I would get blamed for it. I couldn't explain what had happened, but I knew if I tell, it's going to turn on me and I'm going to be the bad guy.
The thing that I've noticed in my own life as a parent, I'm concerned most, and I think this is universal, that my son not be afraid.
Yeah.
And you, up to the age of 9, it seemed like all you were, all you could possibly have been was afraid.
But my validation came, that is how I know that, all these years, that I'm supposed to be doing whatever. My validation came whenever I was allowed to speak. I did a lot of public speaking in school. I was an orator, on the debate team.
Okay, now you're in Nashville.
Yes.
Now you're in Nashville. We've jumped to Nashville here.
Jumped to Nashville.
Nashville?
So you got to get me to Nashville. Pregnant, 14.
Wait a minute, please, let me tell this story.
Rewind, because I'm confused. I knew she was. I knew she got pregnant, but I'm talking about in between time.
This is a pivotal moment. This is huge. You're living with your father. Your father says this, and he doesn't know you're pregnant.
He doesn't know I'm pregnant.
You're 14
I'm sent to Milwaukee when I'm pregnant. My mother kicks me out of the house.
They were going to put you in a detention home in Milwaukee.
Oh, that's a good story. I was going to go to the detention home. My mother, because I'm like running the streets and doing everything, making her crazy, she said you couldn't handle me anymore. And she's taking me to send me to the detention home. And we get to the detention home, and we have to wait. And they say, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking through the doors, and I see all these, quote, bad girls. And I have a moment with myself, like, now I'm going to be in the bad girls' home. God, how did this happen to me? Please help me. And the woman comes back and says, I'm sorry, Mrs. Lee, it's my mother saying, sorry, Mrs. Lee, we don't have any room, and your daughter's going to have to wait 2 weeks before we can take her in. And my mother said, you are getting your ass out of my house. Her exact words. And
you should have said that 3 years ago.
Because the detention. And that again became that was literally a life-saving moment.
What would happen if they had room for her in the detention? You don't know.
I don't know. I probably would
Nothing
not be sitting here today. Yeah. Because then you would have been in that environment trying to overcome the stigma of, quote, the detention home. And so all the other things that happened to me, running